working on for the last few months together. Now, Joanna McFarlane joined us as part of the Educate Global. When we did the trial of the very first iteration of the climate change teacher course, Joanna McFarlane contacted me and said, I'm not a teacher in school, but I am sponsored by Scottish Water in Scotland to deliver a program that I've created myself called Wild Planet Explorers. And I don't know what it was, but Joanna and I just had this instant, there was a connection there, and we got in touch over Skype. I think you phoned me, Joe. We had a phone call, and I just knew that I was speaking to somebody who really knew their stuff. And it developed, and Joe did the climate change teacher course and sailed through with flying colors. And we met when she was attending, she was put up for a very, very important award, and she came through to London, and we connected down in London just before she had to head off to her award night. And she joined me when I had my very first meeting with the leader of Hammersmith and Fulham Borough Council and their entire leadership team. So we just hit it off from the word go. And what was amazing about Joanna was that she was actively engaged in delivering the most incredible learning programs, climate change, biology learning on climate change to schools throughout Scotland. And I'm going to just introduce you to Jo, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about herself and what she's up to at the moment and how we got to Wild Planet Explorer. So Jo, I'm going to hand over to you. Go for it.
Okay, thanks very much, Mel. So hello everyone. Well, my background is really that I'm a biologist. That's what I studied, and I particularly went into the line of marine biology and conservation. And I've spent most of my career either working on conservation projects abroad, or mostly over the last 15 years on conservation projects around sustainability in Scotland, on nature reserves, working for conservation charities, and also doing a lot of education with children and families, particularly around conservation and nature conservation. And about 6 years ago, well, I should know, 6 years ago, I had a lovely daughter, and after I had my daughter, I fell a bit unwell, and it gave me time really to think about what did I want to do next. And just before I left my role in the conservation sector, I remember sitting in a meeting with many conservation specialists, and sitting around the table, they were discussing the big threats to nature that were out there. And one of the people there who'd been doing lots of research said, well, actually, one of the huge threats that the conservation charities recognise to nature is the fact that so many children are becoming disconnected from nature around the world, and particularly also in the UK as more and more move into cities. That actually some of our biggest work really needs to be about re-engaging children with nature, with wildlife, understanding their role in protecting it in the future and how their lives impact on nature, and whether it be through how many fossil fuels them and their families use day to day, right through to what they're buying in shops, and what they're putting out for birds in their garden. And essentially, I left that meeting very pregnant, thinking to myself, there's more I can do to be educating children, and there's more I can be doing to get out there and spread the word of how children and families can make the biggest difference to nature. And you know what, conservation charities, they have limited resources and limited money, and I thought, well, maybe I can go out there and I can help spread the messages of those nature conservation charities for free, while I'm also hopefully running a successful environmental education business, and spread out to more families perhaps they wouldn't normally meet. And so as my daughter got older, I started trialing sessions of animal biology and conservation mixed together. And and from the ages from 3 to 8 years old, I developed sessions for them because families were looking for those kind of engaging sessions to learn about wildlife. But a lot of the families were also a bit nervous about going out into nature themselves because they themselves weren't informed about nature. They weren't, so their children would ask them questions about wildlife, but they didn't really know the answers. So what I found as I developed my sessions was that the parents were actually learning as much as the children from my sessions about animal biology, about the impacts and more recently of climate change and other things. And they were saying, can I sign up for it as much as my child? Because I can then learn more about the subjects as my child gets older, and I can answer those tricky questions. So those sessions have developed the junior side of Wild Planet Explorers, which is part of the offer under the S.O.L.V.E learning experience over the summer. And also it's where my main business is. However, through time and through word of mouth, more schools and more nurseries and more scout groups and have heard about what I do. And off the back of that, I've developed more awards that families and groups and schools can get involved in. And word has spread across Scotland. So then I'm now going to high schools and doing presentations about different conservation subjects and stories. And every single time I leave a group of 15 or 16-year-olds, I just try to say the message to them is that make sure that you're informed about what's going on out there in the world, what difference you can make as an individual just by what you're buying in the shop at break time, right through to what you're asking for Christmas as a present, that everything you're doing can impact on nature on the other side of the world. And they were very surprised to hear about the palm oil issue and deforestation, and that things they buy could be leading to a decline of tiger species, and in fact Sumatran rhinoceroses are already have gone extinct due to palm oil, and in some areas not Sumatran but Malayan rhinos gone extinct in some areas. So I think you know, for a lot of children, it's a lovely surprise to be told not only it's all, you know, doom and gloom, but actually you can be the key to solving it. And that's what I try to do for Wild Planet Explorers. It's not just about doom and gloom. It's not about asking for money. You know, like a lot of charities are reliant on income to try and keep their charities going. Whereas for me, I want to get out there and share with families that you and children, you are the key to making change for nature conservation. And I've already seen it happen around the world, thanks to children saving certain species. So that's just some of it.
So, Jo, when I watched one of your, I must thank COVID-19. I need to have a bash at COVID-19 for many of the things that it's done to us. But in a way, a lot of positive stuff has come up as a result of COVID-19. And one of those is that I contacted you and said, can I do a Facebook, can we do a Zoom? I want to do one of your lessons. And I've never ever, I'm pretty jaded as well, because I work, I create programs. I'm very visual. I think visually. I see things in 360 degrees in full color. If you give me a book, I see that book as a film, as an animation, as voices, as lessons. Something is differently wired in my brain. But when I watched your live Zoom session for the first time, I jumped out of my chair and I was running around like a child. I felt it was just incredible. I was doing all the moves with you, and I just thought, if this is what she can do to me, then that's it. I'm in. I'm all in. So we were waiting for lockdown, weren't we? We were waiting for the lockdown to be raised, and we were counting down those moments. And as soon as lockdown was raised, you said, "Get up to Scotland," and I hot-footed it over there. And we were incredibly blessed that we were able to film you delivering both Wild Planet Explorers for juniors, which is the 3 to 9 years old, and we filmed Wild Planet Explorers Kids, which is for 9 to 17 years old. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen again, And I'm going to show the group Wild Planet Explorers. At the moment is being launched. Initially, it is being launched on our S.O.L.V.E, which has Denise and I created the Summer Online Learning Village experience. And you can see all about it over there. And for 8 weeks, it starts on the 20th of July. For 8 weeks, once a week, we are going to have, Joanna is going to deliver a weekly deep dive for each of the Wild Planet Explorers. So she's going to do a deep dive for the juniors, those that decide to go with the Wild Planet Explorers juniors. And then once a week, she'll do a deep dive with the kids, Wild Planet Explorers kids, for the 9 to 17-year-olds. They are very different. They are very different programs, both presented and delivered by Joanna. But I've been working on the edit of the juniors at the moment, and it draws me in, and there are all sorts of match the stats. There are exercises and engagement. The level of engagement is very high. It is expected. But then those weekly deep dives are going to ensure that the families and the children taking part in S.O.L.V.E, in the Wild Planet Explorers Kids, they are going to be engaged throughout that process. So you will be doing that over the 8 weeks of summer, starting on the 20th of July. Your Wild Planet Explorers for juniors is similar, but you are delivering that with your daughter, Maggie. She's ever so little, and she does some of the moves with you, because very little children have a different concept of a lot of these very hard-hitting issues. And the last thing we want is for children and their families to be suffering from eco-anxiety. Everything that is here is about empowering the families, empowering parents, and empowering children so that they can deliver positive actions, which deliver what we want is tangible action.
And
now,
also to have a lot of fun doing it.
I forgot the fun.
Yeah, don't forget the fun. The fun is the top bit. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, Joe, your program is so engaging and so much fun. I've never done anything like it in my life before. I love it, and I can't wait. We've had, this weekend has been totally nuts. You sent me a little link to something on Twitter or in the news on Saturday morning, very early, 5 a.m. or whereabouts, when I saw it the first time. I got onto Facebook. I connected with somebody in the state, in this particular state in America. Within an hour, I was having a Zoom with the governor of the state and his wife and this lady. And I was showing them your program. I was showing them what we've been doing. Now I'm just going to go. The members that sign up to S.O.L.V.E, they are going to have if you sign up to the full S.O.L.V.E, you get the whole bank sheet. You get 30 programs, you get the handwriting match fit assessment, you get all of the Start B handwriting programs with the kits, you get mini bees, successful scissors, mini yoga, you get absolutely everything, okay? Now, what is so cool about Wild Planet Explorers is that you can decide if you want only the one for juniors or the one for kids. It's up to you. It's all, oh, hang on, let me resume the sharing. I pushed the wrong button. And it's all here on the page. When you scroll down on the info page, and we will put the link to the page underneath this live. So you've got 3 choices. You can just choose the Wild Planet Explorers that you would like for the 8 weeks with the deep dives, or you could choose programs that you want to select. You could create your very own suite of programs that you want. You don't have to have all of them. Or you could sign up to option 3, which is the entire S.O.L.V.E membership. But don't forget, that gives you an entire year of access to all of these programs, all of the deep dives, absolutely everything going. So that's about it in a nutshell. Before we leave you, I want to know from you, Joe, what is your motivation? Why did you create S.O.L.V.E? What is the real reason? What do you want to achieve from Wild Planet Explorers?
I would like to meet as many children as possible across the world, and I want to share with them and inspire them to think about either becoming biologists or conservationists or zoologists or ecologists, and think about a career in that line of work. Because nature across the world, I asked this question in the first session I do with the kids side, is do we really need more biologists and conservationists out there saving nature? And some of the statistics I share with the children are for the older children. The answer is clearly yes. Right now, there are species out there, for example, like the vaquita, which is a small porpoise living in the Gulf of California, just off Mexico. And there are only, they reckon, 19 left of this particular vaquita. And there are biologists and conservationists out there right now risking their lives to try and save these 19 individual porpoises. And that's the thing, as children are growing up around the world, there are species going extinct. There are tigers are on the brink of extinction. There are species in everyone's countries, whether it's the UK or around the world, that are on the brink of extinction. And what they need is knowledge. They need scientists with knowledge, with passion, with a desire to try and make change happen and study them. And that's what nature conservation needs, more children coming through. And even if they don't dedicate their lives to conservation and biology, to just grow up caring, signing petitions, choosing carefully what they buy, just making small changes. And what my sessions do, from the juniors to the kids, it gives all families and all children an idea of just little changes they can make. And then as they get older, they can decide, do I want to commit my life to being a biologist? And even if they don't, they've already making huge change in their life, which makes as big a difference anyway. And so what would I like? I would like as many families to sign up and get involved in Wild Planet Explorers over the next 8 weeks, because I've got lots of little activities to do. None of it's really arduous. It's all fun, it's engaging, it's relevant to their home lives and their daily lives. And at the end of it, your children will be beginner biologists, if not moving towards advanced biologists for some of the junior kids side, because some of the stuff I share is from my highest studies and masters and wildlife management and conservation and stuff I learned as I became a scientist. So I can really share some of the top level stuff. So I'm really excited, and I hope I meet lots of children and families in the coming weeks.
Thank you, Jo. I just wanted to let everybody know, as part of this live, this Facebook Live, that Wild Planet Explorers, after S.O.L.V.E, is going to take on an entire new life of its own as part of our suite of climate change and sustainability programs within Harvard Education. But we'll do a separate Facebook Live about that, because I've been chatting with individuals that are very keen on having all of that suite, all of Educate Global, throughout an entire state of America. And once we start in that one state, it will spread to every state of America. So we are spreading here in the United Kingdom. We have other bits and pieces. I'm sure you all know, we've been working on the British Council funding goodie for all of you. There's, for those Educate Global teachers out there, that is 2,000 schools in the United Kingdom are going to partner with 2,000 schools in LDCs from Africa. And that is going to be a separate funding. And we've created a course. Jo and I were a part of that Zoom just over a week ago on that. We've created a course for the teachers to be able to apply for that funding from the British Council. And so that'll be 4,000 schools. And we are intending to include Wild Planet Explorers within that delivery process. So those 4,000 schools will be delivering Wild Planet Explorers, either juniors or kids within that program. And we have tons coming up, absolutely tons. So we are very, very blessed to be working with Joanna. She is the best. There, you know, she said to me, why do you want Wild Planet Explorers? I said, because it's the best. I don't want the schmatters. I only want the best. Because if we're going to make a real change and a real impact, tangible change, tangible action, if we are going to empower children and their families and their communities, we need the best. And Wild Planet Explorers is simply the best. Joe, you are absolutely incredible. I've been working my way through the edit. You are on my edit suite as we speak, and you have me in goosebumps. I'm looking at some of the stats that you are discussing in your sessions, and I'm just thinking, I'm screaming at the screen saying, no, I have to change this. I have to do something. And that's what we're doing. And so you've inspired me, and you've inspired my family, because my whole family now are matching the stats.
Yeah.
I'm running around going, match the stats. Thank you so much for joining us. And I really hope that, you know, once we get other things going, that you will join us on another Facebook Live very soon. And we will discuss how Wild Planet Explorers fits into the biggest scheme of things within Educate Global, not only in S.O.L.V.E. and in everything that we're doing with Harvard Education. I can't thank you enough. And I can't wait to introduce everybody to what you've got and to get going with our deep dives from the 20th of July. Okay? Speak to you later.
And thank you, Mel, for everything. It's great to work with you. Thanks very much.
Bye, Joe. Bye.
Bye. Bye.